Hello YouTubers, this is Demon091 and bringing you another video. Oh, this one's going to be a little different than what I've already done in the past. Mainly this is going to be about a certain almost kind of forgotten TV series. That used to play on, well, the Disney Channel. Now, from what I can gather, Disney has had a lot of good hits, as well as some major flops. But there's one sub-franchise of Disney I actually find very interesting, thanks to the imagination behind it at all. And that is being the Lilo and Stitch experiments. Now, since the movie, since the semi-sequel Stitch the movie, there was a TV series based around it. It called, Lilo and Stitch the series. In each episode, Lilo, Jumba, Quickly, and Stitch would go after experiment pods that Jumba had brought with him to Earth. And since the island where Lilo and Nani live is perhaps one of the wettest places on the planet, these experiments will activate as soon as the pods are hydrated. In other words, once liquid hits them, they are, what's the right word? Born, I guess would work, into the world of Earth. Whereas they can cause chaos like you wouldn't believe. Now, each experiment has a specific number. And looking on the Stitch database, there's a total of 632 experiments, although there's only 629 actually listed. And for each experiment series, each of them have a certain characteristic to them. From the 0 to 100 series, the experiments are basically Jumba's test batch, which includes many household helpers, such as Experiment 010, Felix or Oscar. His primary objective is being a cleaner, I guess. Or Experiment 007 and Gigi or Yapper, whose primary objective is to annoy people with their constant barking, kind of like the dogs in my neighborhood and around here. Anyway, from 100 to 200, and the experiments are classified as civic disturbances. Basically, these are experiments that can cause trouble in, just about any town that they're nearby. From 200 to 300, and experiments are technological and scientific. In other words, they have certain qualities to them. There's some that are elementals, there are some that can take control of technology, there's even one that can cause as a weird illness, as amongst national or planetary leaders. The 300 series is are basically psychological experiments. In other words, these are the experiments that affect your mentality. Like, for example, Spooky, as I've mentioned before, whose primary function is to transform into what you fear the most. The 400 series are military experiments. These are the experiment, and so would be perfect for warfare, or if given the chance. The 500 series are the elemental manipulators, like experiment 501 and Yin, whose primary objective is to condense moisture in the air into water and basically shoot it out through her hose-like tentacles. And experiment 502, Yang, whose primary objective is producing heat. And when Yin and Yang combined, they kind of do exactly what volcanoes in ocean water do. But when they combine, basically create new rock. And of course, there's my favorite series, is the experiments, the 600 series, which are battlefield or doomsday experiments with galactic inflictions and world-ending properties. In other words, these are kind of the doomsday devices of the experiments. And the most popular one, and obviously the first one that comes to mind, is, well, experiment 626, Stitch. So what does this all mean? You might be wondering. Well, I put together a list of what I think are the top 16 experiments from the Lilo and Stitch series. Now keep in mind, I'm going from the movies and the TV series. And to let you know right off the bat, I'm going to be looking up the actual details of these experiments on the Stitch database wiki. And before I do that, if there's even an anime of Lilo and Stitch, well, it's just called Stitch. It actually takes place in Japan. I've actually seen it, and I give it a thumbs up. But anyway, let's get on to it with number 16, which is probably perhaps an experiment that I find kind of interesting. Not only because of his behavior, but, well, I mentioned this guy's voice. He's actor in my voice actor playlist. Number 16, it's experiment 625, aka Reuben. Now, for those of you who know what I mean, or may not quite remember as much, Reuben is a golden yellow, chubbier version of Stitch. It's with basically buck teeth. It is voiced by Rob Paulson in a Brooklyn style voice. Now, according to Jumba, his creator, Reuben is originally designed to have all the powers of 626. In other words, having super strength, near invulnerability, it basically can see in the dark, it can think twice as fast as a supercomputer, all that. Except there's one small problem. Reuben's lazy, and he rather make sandwiches than do that stuff that I just mentioned. However, in the third act of Leroy and Stitch, Reuben redeems himself by actually using his primary powers. And there's a little gimmick going on in the show and, of course, in certain movies, is where after Lilo and Stitch encounter these experiments, they have to find the one true place that they belong. In other words, where would they fit in most? With Reuben, well, since the Lilo and Stitch semi-sequel will feature Reuben first, is alongside Gantu and Hamsterville. He's been kind of Gantu's sidekick and henchman in a way. But after Lilo and Stitch, and after he was redeemed and recommissioned, and Gantu is Reuben as his galley officer. Or mostly due to his sandwich making skills. Number 15. Experiment 029, aka checkers. This experiment is a lot more interesting than Reuben because it has a unique ability. Checkers is a yellow and purple little spiked centipede-like Pokemon. Why the hell did I even say Pokemon? And I gotta get that out of my head. Sorry, Checkers kind of looks like a Pokemon to me. I guess that's why I said it. Experiment. And it actually has the ability to make whoever puts them on their head into the king or queen of whatever area that they are in. Which is actually very interesting. And seeing is that anybody who has his checkers on their head as a crown would become king or queen in their town or city. However, there's a slight problem. Other experiments are immune to checkers' effect. And will that eventually overthrow the person who has checkers. Like in its title episode, where after Lilo dawns him, there is a little bit of trouble. And then when Lilo decides to sit down, Gantu takes control of checkers and is in power until Stitch gathers up several other experiments and to overthrow him. Now, there's no exact place for it, or checkers, unfortunately, but there you go. And if you've seen my Halloween special videos, you'll know which one and I have for number 14. If you don't, it's Experiment 300, aka Spooky. Now, just for the sake of this list, I'm going to recap. Spooky's primary function is to transform into his opponent's worst fear. And in the Halloween episode of the Lilo and Stitch series, he actually does this quite well. Seconds after he's activated. He encounters a mouse, he turns into a cat. A dog comes along, he turns into a dog catcher. What? Excuse me a minute. Come here. One minute, please. What? Anyway, the entire episode as you would have guessed, revolves around Halloween. And Spooky does, like I said, does its job extremely well, scaring just about. Oh, closing my shirt. Scaring just about everyone on the island, from Myrtle and her friends to even Bleakley, Jumbo, and even Nani. But there's a slight weakness as to Spooky. He's terror, turned to shapeshifting. Like with Freddy Krueger, if you can confront your fears head on, Spooky is powerless. And as for One True Place, well, being the perfect Halloween decoration, and for trick-or-treaters. Basically transforming into their worst fear, scaring them while they're getting candy. Now that's a pretty good idea. Number 13. Experiment 177, aka Clip. This experiment, however, I find kind of interesting in a way. Experiment 177, its primary function is to originally eat this one in energy in matter from space called, let's see if I can find it. Oh yeah, here it is. Designed to eat uranium, an efficient, cheap, and abundant fuel used in outer space, in order to create a fuel crisis. However, according to Jumba in his native language, the word uranium resembles the word for hair. So Clip ends up eating hair instead of uranium. And like with another experiment, and she grows larger as she eats. Each to the point where shampoo and hair conditioning products can shrink her back to normal. Her one true place is being, well, a barber, or for a beauty salon. I don't know why, but I find Clip kind of cute in a weird sort of way. Maybe because of how simple she looks. Basically, she's a yellow fur ball with a pink bow, large blue eyes, and, of course, long scissor-like claws. But that one power of hers, being able to change size, like grow bigger as she consumes hair, definitely kind of reminds me of another monster. Oh well. Number 12. Experiment 116, aka Switch. This experiment is perfect for anybody who wants to teach a rival of theirs a lesson and why don't you take a walk in my shoes? Wait. Oh, never mind. This is the wrong one. I'm sorry. Oh, shoot. Which one was it? Oh, I blurred that one up. On second thought, never mind. I know what I just said. And well, I'll find another one I'm going to work with. That's because that wasn't the experiment I wanted to mention. Shoot. Oh wait, here it is. Experiment 199, aka Nosy. Nosy is a red pig-like experiment with a pink stomach and of course a large nose. He's voiced by comedian Bobcat Goldthwait, and his primary objective is to snoop around for enemy secrets, but ends up finding mostly the unnecessary gossip. According to Jumba, he also programmed Nosy to be an expert escape artist. Interesting, seeing as he escaped it only once. That's as far as we know. And in this one episode of the series, Nosy just becomes even more of a nuisance. I don't know if it's because of Bobcat's voice or the fact that this experiment is just plain on obnoxious. Just him trying to reveal everybody's secrets. So his one and true place is being a journalist. In other words, being a gossip writer. That's all I have to say about that one. Let's move on to number 11, which is Experiment 062, aka French fry. Now this is one experiment a lot of us who've actually seen the series would find it interesting to have, but would have to be extremely careful to be around. Basically, French fry is a chef experiment, believe it or not. But there's one slight issue. He's designed to make delectable and irresistibly unhealthy food that quickly fattens people. So that he can eat them once they're basically living boulders or is in shape. However, you can be stopped if you weren't, the healthy food can be just as delicious. And his one true place is working at a tofu French fry hut. But basically, this experiment is kind of interesting to me. Seeing as, well, in the process of his episode, French fry actually makes a lot of interesting looking foods that Lilo, Stitch, and Quigley they all consume. That is until Gantu shows up and Lilo kind of has French fry make him a birthday cake that instantly blows him up. This is like one of the only experiments that speaks French, I guess. Let's see here. Experiment, number 10. And experiment 032, Fibber. Primary function, acting as a living lie detector. And as the lie gets bigger, the louder he beeps. Basically, this would be this is best experiment and to have. Seeing as well, it's a lie detector. What more can you ask for? Although it have to be very hard to keep good secrets. Especially with this one around. Number 9. Experiment 120, aka Snafu. Now, for those of us who don't know what the acronym Snafu means, it was used as a World War II phrase, meaning and I'll hint this later. Situation normal. All fouled up. Basically, Snafu's job is to sabotage enemy plans to catch it, and by any means necessary. The only way you can possibly catch this experiment is by sheer accident. Experiment 151 is at number 8, and this one is named Baby Fire. And take a wild guess what this experiment can do. Oh, in case you didn't know, experiment 151 and is able to turn other living things into babies. It is by shaking the rattle in his tail. Which releases a pink dust. However, though, and fortunately, there is an antidote to this in order to reverse the effects. An antidote is as follows: 2 teaspoons of applesauce, 1 cup of milk, 3 bananas, and 100% Kona coffee. Now, in the episode where Baby Fire was first featured, we actually got to see what most of the characters in the show looked like when they were babies. We got to see Nani as a baby, we got to see Tweakley as one, we got to see Jumba as one, Gantu at one point, and even Stitch, which is actually very rare. And we get to see a baby experiment, excuse me a minute. Again, ouch. Oh, you stop it. What? Are you hungry? Really? Alright, fine, I'll feed you. Ugh. Spoil sport. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah. Baby Fire's one true place, as well as a new occupation, is working in an animal shelter, making dogs that would be considered too old to adopt and might be nearing their life expectancy back into puppies. It's making them more appealing to potential adopters, which is genius. Just if you think about it, Baby Fire is basically the living example of the fountain of youth. True, if one were to be affected by Baby Fire's powder, they would have to go through the whole aging process all over again. Which means for humans, one would have to go through puberty again. But put it this way, it would be like a fresh start, if you think about it. Anyway, and speaking of reverting things to their previous state, or most state, we come to number 7, which is Experiment 210, aka Retro. This experiment I find most intriguing due to his power, which is wrapping his tongue around on something or someone and reverting them back to their most primal. No, wait, I got a better way to say it. Retro is designed to turn enemy weapons, technology, no, enemy weapon and technology, animals, and humans into their most primitive state by wrapping his tongue around them, and basically devolving them. It can only be reversed by spanking in Retro's bottom 3 times while his tongue is wrapped around the devolved person or object. And in the episode where Retro was first introduced, what he's reverted to the most primitive state is quite interesting. And when he's first activated, he turns this couple's clothes into Victorian style clothes, I guess. Their car into a Rolls Royce, and their cell phone into one of those old rotary phones. And as an example of living things, he turns a squirrel into an old prehistoric squirrel, a tiger into a smilodon, a saber-toothed tiger, an elephant into a woolly mammoth, and even in devolving Lilo and Pleakley. As for his one true place, turns out he's good at making animals into their prehistoric forms. And before we move on to number 6, I'd like to mention one small thing about this episode. In the end, it's kind of like a parody to Jurassic Park. Or because if you think about it, if Retro can turn ordinary objects and even people into the most primitive state, imagine what it can do with any animal. Like a lizard. It would probably turn into a dinosaur. On the one hand, and it would be interesting an attraction into any zoo. On the downside, it'd be like Jurassic Park. Anyway, on to number 6, which is Experiment 586, aka Tank. Now, like I was saying with Clip, Tank also grows as he eats. What does Tank eat, you might be wondering? Metal. And as his Tank eats metal, he grows bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, in the episode where he was first introduced, there's a Renaissance fair going on. Where, of course, there are knights in armor. And we get to see what Tank can do mere seconds after he's activated. And he basically eats a whole entire car down to the tires. And unfortunately, he was taken by Gantu. Oh, but he escaped along with other experiments during the whole snafu episode. Let's see if I can find it. Let's see here. Apparently, Tank can also shrink back to normal size if he's not eating metal. For a while, which is pretty good. And if you ask me. Number 5. Experiment 089, aka Skip. This experiment can be both good to have as well as hazardous in a way. Skip was originally designed to fast forward time by 10 minutes. But bringing 10 minutes into the future. Or basically. However, Jumbo kind of screwed up well, the Skip's programming, and instead of it bringing you 10 minutes into the future, it brings you 10 years. And during that whole time, it'll be like you've disappeared for an entire decade. Fortunately, he has a reset button. Now, before we move on, I want to say the next 4 entries are all going to be in the 600 series. So, without further ado, let's go on to number 4, which is Experiment 627, aka E-Vial. Oh, after Stitch boasts about how perfect he is, Jumbo decides to show Stitch up by making a bigger, badder, and worse mannered version of him. Hence, we get E-Vial, or 627, as he is mostly known in the series. E-Vial is supposed to have the same exact powers as Stitch, as well as 20 other experiments. Mostly those of the 600 series. Has no weaknesses, none of the other experiments' weaknesses, and absolutely cannot be turned good. Other than having Stitch's strength and intelligence, and 627's other powers include telekinesis, electricity, plasma shot, and ice breath. Apparently, his only weakness is his loud, uncontrollable laughter. Basically, he's kind of like the weasel that was in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. You get him laughing long enough, you can basically do whatever you want to him. And on to number 3, which is Experiment 624, aka Angel, or as she's better known as in the Lilo and Stitch franchise, Stitch's girlfriend. And her primary objective is to sing in this one song that turns rehabilitated experiments back into their evil state. Basically, she can turn a villain good with her song, like a hero into a villain, and with her song. But there's a catch. Any experiment made after her, like Ruben, E-Vial, Lilo, and Stitch, which especially are unaffected by her song. And she can also, do the reverse effect, and by singing her song in reverse. Or if you tape record her singing in her song and hit the rewind, I guess, and play it backwards, it'll bring and whatever experiment or person who's been turned evil back to good. And of course, she and Stitch have a romantic relationship throughout the series, especially after her first appearance, and especially in the anime. Number 2 is Experiment 629, or as he's well known as in the final Lilo and Stitch movie, Leroy. Like 627, Leroy was designed to be a badder version of Stitch. Except with a few tweaks. He also has the ability to disguise himself as Stitch by changing his fur from red to blue. Oh, you have to see the movie for yourself of why. And if for any reason his fur is burnt off or clipped off, you can instantly regrow it. In Leroy and Stitch, Hamster Wheel kind of forces Jumbo to create a new experiment. And surprisingly enough, Jumbo based this experiment's design off of Stitch. And after some slight mishaps, that's Stitch, Lilo, Quickly, and Jumbo are kind of left out of the loop for a while. So Hamster Wheel has Leroy basically gather up every experiment that was activated, that bring them to Sabrina to destroy them. Then with an army of Leroys. However, before Leroy was finished, Jumbo added in a weakness. This. If Leroy or any of his clones hear Elvis Presley, hear the song Aloha Oi, they will all shut down. And they're now in jail with Hamsterville. Whereas in the end of the movie, before the credits, we hear Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock. And now the moment we've all been waiting for, number 1. But before we get to number 1, let's go over the other 15, the other experiments just beforehand. Number 16, Reuben. Number 15, Checkers. Number 14, Spooky. Number 13, Cliff. Number 12, Nosy. Number 11, French Fry. Number 10, Fibber. Number 9, Snafu. Number 8, Baby Fire. Number 7, Retro. Number 6, Tank. Number 5, Skip. Number 4, Evil. Number 3, Angel. And number 2, Leroy. And out of all 632 experiments, which one did I add for number 1? Come on, isn't it obvious? And it's everyone's favorite blue Ooh, alien. And dog thing. Experiment 626, Stitch. Now, for those of us who haven't seen Lilo and Stitch, allow me to tell you exactly what Stitch is capable of. Designed to be abnormally strong, virtually indestructible, super intelligent, and very mischievous. You can think faster than a supercomputer, be fireproof and bulletproof, can spit acid, can hear in different levels, can see in the dark, jump really high, climb up walls and walk on ceilings, roll into a ball, have super sight, smelling, and hearing, night vision, heat sensing vision, be invisible to guns, bombs, blades, lasers, lava, acid, and plasma, can hear something from 3,000 miles away, can smell sense like smells, or from up to 9 miles away, can spot everything anything from 10 miles away, can puncture anything with his claws and teeth, can regurgitate food, eat, and even take it out of his stomach by hand, can withstand low pressures, secrete a form of venom from his 3 back spines, and lift 3,000 times his own weight. Now, according to the Stitch database, Stitch is 3 foot 5 inches high and weighs 120 pounds. Now, let's see what that would be. Three thousand times 120. Wow. Okay, I just figured this out on my calculator. Experiment 626 is able to lift 180 tons. However, he cannot lift an ounce more, which unfortunately is one of his weaknesses. Other than being the fact that he cannot swim due to his high molecular density. Of course, his one true place is being in with Lilo, as her pet and friend. He's also the first experiment to have been created without Dr. Hamsterville's interference, and is the most successful experiment that Jumba has ever created. Now, as for his voice, he is voiced by Chris Sanders, and for those of us who might know this particular name, he's also one of the geniuses behind How to Train Your Dragon, mainly toothless, as you can believe it. Well, that's it for this video. Oh, but tune in next time as I go over one particular subject that's been on my mind for a while. Oh, that being, and well, how should I put this? Crap, I had it. That's what I was going to say. Oh well. Hit subscribe, like, hey, follow me on Facebook, look at Google Plus, is leave a comment below or what you would like me to go over next. Hopefully next time I'll be able to go with a movie review or another television and show review. Oh wait, maybe that's what I can do next time. On second thought, my next video will feature a particular show that I actually find very intriguing, mostly because of the characters or title characters' backstory. That's right, I'm gonna go there. Till the next time as I go, is I reviewed the Steven Universe. Until then, this is Dino91 saying aloha and happy Valentine's Day.